we can't lead from a standpoint of ban everything. If we approach it that way, we're not doing our students justice, because they're going to enter a world where AI tools, social media, everything like that, it's part of the world. It's what everybody is doing. So we have to help parents also along the way understand there is a way to teach students about these things responsibly. There is a way to help students understand and be aware of the danger, and really help reinforce that message of this is a part of where we are and where our society and world is going, for better or for worse. But we have the power to make it better. And that's the most important thing.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast, your trusted source for real-world tactics that keep students safe and help them to shine online. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. Each week, I sit down with K-12 superintendents, district leaders, and community voices who are shaping digital safety. We discuss wins, struggles, and strategies used to guide students so they can be safe and successful online. Now let's get back to the conversation.
I'm Ryan Smith, Deputy Superintendent in Bellflower Unified School District, which is just outside of the Los Angeles area. We serve almost 10,000 students in 15 schools.
Deputy Superintendent, it is so good to have you here today as we talk about keeping students safe on social media so someday they're successful. And here's what successful means to all of our listeners all over the country. You know that Smart Social is all about safety and shining online. Shining online is where they're successful. It means, how do we use these digital tools? And for those of you listening right now online without video, I'm holding up an iPhone or an Android. How do we use these tools to get kids launching into their future with their dream career, college, internship, or anything else, so that they're positively building an online footprint that helps them shine online? Now, I'm excited, Deputy Superintendent, to interview you, and we're going to get personal for a sec. I grew up in Arcadia, California, right next to where you were a superintendent not long ago. You were a superintendent in Monrovia, California. I grew up in Arcadia, California, right on the border between those two cities. Love that neighborhood, and I'm also really close to where you're at right now, as I'm in Long Beach, California, and you're in Bellflower, maybe a 20-minute drive, would you say?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Southern California is terrific. So for all of our listeners here, we're excited today to get these insights from our Deputy Superintendent guest right now. So Deputy Superintendent, I want to ask you, I've got a couple questions for you today, and then I want to get your feedback on some things. So please set me straight if I have anything wrong. We want to learn from you. But after 200 plus of your peers that we've interviewed nationwide in 41 states, of these superintendent and deputy superintendent conversations, we've heard a consistent trend that I'd love your input on. We're hearing that students are growing up in a digital world filled with powerful technology, AI, and social media. And maybe you have little children that are perfect angels in Bellflower, California. So if this isn't relevant, please let me know. But we're hearing in some cases that students are lacking, in some cases, the maturity and the guidance to use these new tools safely. And the result can be more student absences, lower focus, maybe rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, AI misuse in the classroom, and more. And Deputy Superintendent, we're also hearing that parents are trying to raise good kids in a world that they didn't grow up in, a world where technology is now moving faster than safety policies. It's hard to keep up with these tech companies. Teens know how to hide apps and online behavior. And safety lessons typically come after a crisis because we're playing whack-a-mole, trying to figure out what's next, what's going on. Superintendent, set me straight, or teach me, please. Are there any other trends on this topic that you've seen so we can alert other school districts before they see them?
Thank you very much for introducing this topic. It's a very critical one right now, especially considering how quickly things are moving for AI within our schools and within our communities. And this is something that we've thought a lot about here in Bellflower Unified School District. And while we might not be quite as far along as some of our other districts, we are beginning to work through that journey and that process and think through how best are we going to address AI with our students. And so some of the things that you mentioned as far as trends are certainly trends that we've seen. And so what we've been trying to think of when it comes to this particular area or topic is how best can we help our teachers teach with AI to be able to help our students understand how to use it responsibly and what role it plays in both teaching and learning. One of the things that we've noticed where many districts have started is through policy. So boards have been very thoughtful about developing a policy around AI and AI use. And I know a lot of districts have gone in that direction. And we've done that as well here with our board. But once you get past kind of a broad policy that spells out what the acceptable uses of AI should be, or some of the data privacy and things like that, you really do get to a point where you have to be thoughtful about, okay, well, now that we have a policy, now what? What does this actually look like in classrooms? And how do we teach our students to use it responsibly? And how do we help our teachers facilitate that entire process? It's not unlike the explosion in my mind of social media. When social media was new, you could tell right away that social media would take off, and that before you knew it, every student would have their fingers on social media, or families. And so I feel like an opportunity we have now is to really be thoughtful about how we integrate a major aspect like AI into our lives and into how we're going to teach with it. And so one of the things that we've been thoughtful about here is, what type of instructional model do we want to help our teachers understand and help our teachers use, kind of like a framework. And while we haven't officially rolled anything out yet, we've been doing quite a bit of planning behind the scenes to kind of think about, what would the articulation of AI use be from grades K through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, and beyond. And I know, Josh, you have an education background, and so you've probably heard the old instructional model, or very seasoned instructional model. I do, we do, you do, kind of a gradual release thing. And so we've been thinking very deeply about, what would a gradual release model look like for AI and AI supported instruction in our schools. So for example, thinking through, at what point are foundational skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, and all of those types of things, at what point do we feel like a student's progressing in their elementary school education experience to be able then to go to the next step, where they certainly can do the skills, they can write, they have a voice, they can understand the basics of numeracy and arithmetic, and they can obviously read and to comprehend. Then at what point do you begin teaching students how to co-create with AI? In other words, teaching them how to responsibly work with AI together around a problem, a research question, a piece of writing, or even understanding and kind of breaking down a large text, or things like that. Because that's really where the magic kind of happens with AI and students, is being able to co-create together. And then we've also been thinking, okay, well, then what would the next level be beyond co-creating? Really in our minds, it would be having AI then do tasks for students, but then they take that piece and really work with the AI to make it their own. And along the way, there's verifying accuracy, because AI can have hallucinations when you ask it, give it a prompt or something like that, or you really work with it for a long time. Weird things can happen. So accuracy verification is really, really important. AI can speak in kind of language that's not really kind of discourse that we're having right now, or even kind of natural writing discourse, or AI can produce something that's clearly not in a student's voice. And so those are all skills that we have to teach. We can't let students and families figure that out on their own. We have to kind of embed it and teach it. And we see that as our responsibility here at Bellflower Unified, and I know our colleagues do too, because AI isn't going anywhere. It's here with us to stay. And that is really going to be the future of these tools and the uses of them. And so we feel it's our responsibility to make sure that we've got a great framework in place that's comprehensive enough to be able to help students get there.
Yeah, pretty good tips you just had. I love that. I love how you started off with policy and then moved more practically and tactically. How do we put that in the classroom? Let me just ask just a question or two. What do you think, for all of our listeners, what skills or competency should an elementary school kid have when it comes to AI?
Such a great question. And this is, I guess one of the things that I didn't emphasize enough is, you really can't do this work alone. You really do have to be collaborative, and teachers have to be a part of the process. So for example, as deputy superintendent, I was principal, I was a teacher, I was an assistant superintendent. I've even been blessed to be a superintendent as well. But that doesn't mean I know everything. And that doesn't mean that I've done everything you can possibly do in a school district. For example, I've never taught elementary school. So we have to lean on the people that are doing the work every day and have real authentic conversations about what is the right point to be able to introduce AI tools for students and that co-create level that I talked about, to be able to say that it's clear that we've built a foundation of skills in students, and now they're ready to be able to do it with some AI assist and teach them how to do that. One of the things in our early conversations here that we've really spent time thinking about is, what is the right point? I mean, is that something you would want a kindergartner to do, a third grader to do, or is fifth grade or sixth grade even the right level of maturity? In our minds, it's about trying to ensure that there's the right level, a solid level of foundational skills. In other words, a student can write well. A student can write different types of writing. So, for example, expository, argumentative, persuasive, those kinds of things, can be able to read any type of text and be able to comprehend it, be able to interpret it, and give a take on it. And then in the mathematical realm, be able to do things that have prepared them for algebra and beyond in terms of arithmetic, in terms of basic math skills, prerequisite math skills. At what point do you feel like there's a solid enough foundation for that to be able to then introduce, all right, now we have an AI tool that can help you with these things, but it doesn't replace your foundational skills. You can do the work. If AI didn't exist, we have 100% confidence that you could do the work on your own. That's the point where we want to be able to start gradually releasing that responsibility. And right now we're thinking that that probably lies around fifth or sixth grade.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. Fifth or sixth grade. We're hearing that nationwide, and they're going to jump on AI regardless. So it's good
Absolutely.
to get them in early. Okay, so for all of our listeners right now, as you know, we host big parent night events weekly, especially with back to school coming around. And a lot of parents, we have millions of parents a year that are visiting our site that are asking us questions. And here's a big question we get. They say, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger online? Smart Social is all about safety, plus using the AI tools to shine online and build those new things. Well, rather than hearing from us or the deputy superintendent, let's hear from a real teenager about how she might help a friend recognize the red flags to protect her friend.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's the major red flag.
Now, parents, remember, we host weekly live parent events. And if your school district is a partner, we encourage you to come out to these. Not only are you going to learn how to keep your family safe online, but you're going to enter for a chance to win cool prizes. We give away a Bluetooth speaker, a Kindle, and a 3D printer every single week. We have real teens in the program, as you can see on the screen. It's teen-led video lessons. A lot of parents will actually bring their teens to the program and learn from those teens, and a premium parent newsletter. Now, parents, I just want to show you our next events coming up here soon. If you go to the front of smartsocial.com, we've got the latest app guides on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Netflix, WhatsApp, and 450 plus more in 12 languages. So you're never behind on this. We're always catching you up on the latest and greatest ways to keep your kids safe on all these hot apps. Also, August is AI month, so we have AI for student success, being productive and learning future skills. Lots of live sessions taught by yours truly here with lots of experts and guests and so on. And not only is it the 12th, the 19th, the 26th, but we have bonus events the 21st. You'll see in there, it'll be all about avoiding strangers in dangerous situations. Okay, so lots of good things. Parents, I do encourage you, please come on out. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to keep your family safe, and you'll be automatically entered to win cool prizes. Okay, Deputy Superintendent, I want to dive back into you and get some advice. So in addition to all these conversations that we have, we've heard from communities. They're saying that many parents are feeling a little bit overwhelmed trying to keep up with these fast-moving online trends and digital safety risks. And parents, we feel with you and we hear what you're saying. We love it. There's no shame here. It's fast and it's hard to keep up. Also, we're hearing that students are finding clever ways to increase their screen time and bend those rules, especially when it comes to expectations at school differ significantly from those at home. So, Deputy Superintendent, what trends or pain points are you seeing when it comes to parent engagement? And where do you feel the families might be struggling the most to stay informed or connected?
Such a great question, Josh. And I'm impressed with the work that Smart Social has been doing in this area. It's incredibly powerful. And yes, the trends that you identified are certainly trends that we're seeing here in our school district and within our own community. And I think it's probably universal. One of the things that comes to mind for us is that sometimes you mentioned that you have almost 450 platforms that you provide great advice to parents on in terms of, is it a legitimate app? Is it a proper one for a teenager to be using? Those kinds of things. I think sometimes that's part of what gets overwhelming for parents with this work, even with AI. Everyone knows what ChatGPT is, but then there's Gemini, and then there's built-in AI into some of the curriculum platforms that we use and those kinds of things. You have different tools all out there. And I think sometimes parents get really overwhelmed as to, well, what AI tools is the district using? What AI tools might my student be expected to use? And how do I kind of help my student use them in a way that I don't want them to plagiarize? I don't want them to submit work that isn't theirs. I don't want ChatGPT, for example, to do my son's math homework. How do I help make sure that at home, some of those guardrails are there? But sometimes the overwhelming volume of tools and the amount of things can lead parents to be really frustrated and kind of overwhelmed and not necessarily know where to start. And so for us, one of the things that we are very fortunate to have in Bellflower is we have really strong board leadership from our amazing Board of Education. Most of them are all parents. And so they're experiencing these things with their own students as well. And so what they've asked us to do is a couple of different things. One, they've asked us to form an AI task force or committee that's broad, has a number of stakeholders to really work through some of the topics that we talked about in the previous segment and also talk about this one. So that's one big area of work that I think is very important and that I'm really excited about. And then the other thing is our Board of Education has also really been shown a lot of leadership in terms of involving parents more, doing more for parents. So last year, for example, we partnered with an organization that brought parent education courses on all kinds of topics to our parents and community members for the very first time. And we had more than 500 parents graduate from the program on our very first try last semester. And a part of that program and a part of its progression over the years is going to include themes and modules about AI safety. And I think that's the best thing that you can kind of do is continue to bring those opportunities to parents in an authentic way, in great conversations face to face, like these kinds of things, and really try to make it simple for parents. I also feel like it's really important that we as educators help parents understand that, kind of like social media, there's a lot of parallels. And prior to social media, it was the internet itself, that these are aspects of where our world is and where our world is going to continue to evolve. And we can't lead from a standpoint of ban everything, don't let students use anything for as long as we possibly can until maybe they get the diploma across the stage. If we approach it that way, we're not doing our students justice, because they're going to enter a world where AI tools, social media, everything like that, it's part of the world. It's what everybody is doing. So we have to help parents also along the way understand that there is a way to teach students about these things responsibly. There is a way to help students understand and be aware of the danger, and really help kind of reinforce that message of this is a part of where we are and where our society and world is going, for better or for worse, but we have the power to make it better. And that's the most important thing. I also feel like parents themselves probably fall into some of the same pitfalls and traps that our students do sometimes. So along the way, we're not just educating parents about what their students might be experiencing or the dangers there, but some of these topics, and I've watched a lot of your videos, Josh, they kind of blow my mind, because they're things like, I didn't even think about that. You think about posting, for example, a picture on Instagram, super innocent. Well, that could lead to somebody stalking you. They just figure out, through AI, where this address or where this picture was likely taken. And you did a video on that. That's really scary. And I think sometimes parents themselves who might feel I'm a pretty proficient user of these things might not have thought about that themselves. So it's a powerful opportunity to really help families, obviously through helping students, but also helping families in general.
Yeah, for all of our listeners, we have a video. It's titled something to get your attention. It's called How AI Stalked My Nephews. And I took a picture with my nephews. We uploaded it to AI without any data around it, and it knew the address we were at. It's kind of creepy. I like what you're saying too, Deputy Superintendent, because what you're saying is so great. If we said, hey, kids, don't touch that hot stove, what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to touch that hot stove. But instead of saying, don't ever get in that car and ever drive, now kids are going to have to drive someday. So we might as well teach them when you're sitting in the back seat, here's defensive driving and non-distractive driving and two hands on the road, and like model that good behavior at an early age for them. So when they do it, they know they don't have to do it secretly without mom and dad. They can do it with them, right? I love that.
It's such a great point too, especially, a lot of times when a new technology emerges or a new innovation comes along, there is that tendency to want to ban it or to want to ban its use. And sometimes we can look past root causes. Phones are a really good example. A lot of school districts are putting restrictions, including ours, on cell phone use, for example. Well, it's not necessarily the cell phone itself or the tool itself. It's really more about how it's being used, specifically with respect to social media use. And so one route you can go is to say no use at all. But when a student graduates, goes into college, guess what? They're applying for jobs on LinkedIn, social media platform. And so it's incumbent on us to make sure that part of being college and career ready and life ready is being able to use those tools responsibly, which requires a familiarity with them. So it's so important what you shared. And I just wanted to make that connection as well.
Yeah, so good. And that's a really good transition into something. I want your advice on this, Deputy Superintendent. One of our big events that we host, and this will probably be August 21st, our bonus event. We do these huge events nationwide every single week, but there's different themes every month. One of them is called The Sneaky Ways the Video Apps Keep Teens Watching, which is so important. Understanding the subtle ways that video apps and social media in general keeps teens captivated, and parents learn strategies to help them balance screen time. One of the biggest questions we get is, hey, Josh, what are some of the tips to help my teen manage their screen time? Well, let's hear from actually two teenagers with tips on how they reset their screen time and how their parents help them do that. I think this is really interesting.
I just try to hold myself accountable about how much time I'm spending, because you can get lost really easily. While you're doing it, you think 30-second videos, what's the harm in that? But then when you've launched 4 hours out of your day, you feel a lot of regret. Why would I spend 5 hours scrolling on this app before bed when I could have been getting more sleep or being more productive throughout my day? My mom, she always lets me know when I'm just dead scrolling on TikTok for hours. Like, she usually tells me how long it's been. You should probably get up and go do the things that you need to do. So besides holding yourself accountable, it's really helpful if you have a parent or someone that cares about you to hold you accountable for how much time you're losing on those video apps.
Some techniques I use to stop myself from getting sucked into social media is being very aware of why I'm on there, as well as understanding how it's addictive. Even though it can be fun to just sit on the phone and scroll or immerse myself in it, keeping in mind the things I need to do and setting aside the time to do that rather than falling into it like a trap.
Okay, so interesting. And Deputy Superintendent, I want to get your feedback on this slide. Here's some of the questions that we tell parents they can ask their teen to have an open conversation and help them evaluate the quality of their screen time. Parents, I want to give you the good news and the bad news. We at Smart Social, and maybe even the Deputy Superintendent would agree, that the only safety app out there in the world that's going to protect your kids is a rich and healthy dialogue and relationship that you, the parent or guardian, has with your children. Unfortunately, Microsoft at 3 a.m. is not going to call you and contact you and say, we don't like what's happening. Unfortunately, it's that trusted relationship. And here's the good news is it's really easy to do that around the dinner table or a car ride home from school. Memorize one of these, make it your own. And perhaps you could ask your kiddos, hey, how do you feel after your screen time? Or does that app or activity make you feel stronger or weaker after 1 hour? Maybe what screen time or activities or apps make you feel stronger? What activities make you feel more focused or relaxed? And how much time do you think is healthy? Now, parents, what's happening here is you're getting your kids to think, to kind of break the pattern of, oh, I'm stuck in TikTok for 4 hours or whatever. They're starting to think and self-modulate so that when they go off to college, they know how to go, you know what? My mom taught me that because I had to think for myself and answer her because nobody's ever asked me that before. And these are some of the ways to do that, to get your kid to start thinking about when you're not around, how are they going to behave online? Deputy Superintendent, what do you think that we're either missing, or what would you suggest to parents to open up that rich dialogue so they can have a good relationship with their kiddo?
I think those are great questions and those are great dialogue starters. And Josh, I love what you said about family and relationships really make the biggest difference. And so making sure that we're investing in doing all we can to be together and to be present and to help teach kids the importance of that is so vital and so incredible. And one of the things that kind of came to mind as I was hearing those two incredible students kind of share their thoughts was sometimes you can get lost in some of these social media platforms and other tools and not realize that you've been on it for 4 hours. And so some things that I think might be helpful, I kind of draw a parallel to, have you ever driven kind of down the road and then you might have been going a little fast and then you see something on the side of the road that the police might have set up and it says, a big giant sign says your speed is, and then there's a digital piece and it tells you you're doing 50 and a 30 or something like that. And you go, whoa, and you kind of slow down right away. I think having something like that in mind where you're actually showing and highlighting how much time you spent on a particular app towards the end of the day could be a good family conversation too at dinner or something like that. Hey, let's pull up the app and let's take a look at your app use and see you spent 4 hours on X, or you spent 3 hours on LinkedIn or on Instagram or TikTok, that kind of thing. Was that really the most productive use of your time? Or were you really doing things, like you said, these right into the questions that you have there? I think sometimes building that awareness piece is really, really critical. I also feel like parents kind of leaning into, are you using those things to make you a better person, a better citizen, a better family member, a better brother, a better son, a better student? Are you using those tools in that way for that? Or is it just for instant self-gratification or for, social networking or for peer-to-peer time, those kinds of things? Another thing that we've had, there's a family that I know that has been very concerned about this topic. And one thing the father did for a week was kind of take pictures kind of subtly of every time the family was out and about, of how often people had their phones or how often his family had their phones, and they were all sitting like this out at the restaurant or out at the movies, before the movie was starting, that kind of thing. And put it up on the screen as a family and said, look, we've been out together doing all these things, and look at all these pictures of us all together on our phones.
Yeah.
Where's the togetherness? Where's the, we're present? And that was kind of a game changer in thought. A teenager goes, oh gosh, yeah, you're right. That does look a certain way. So those are things that I think could kind of enhance or at least lead right into your fantastic questions that might be some good suggestions for parents to consider. That awareness factor is so critical. How much are you using these things?
Yeah, such a good point. Deputy Superintendent, this has been absolutely great. You took a lot of time out of your busy day. We're going back to school. There's a lot you're doing. I want to thank you. Thanks for joining us here today.
It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. And so grateful to you for the opportunity, and also to you for all the work that you're really doing in this area to help everyone.
Thank you so much. For all of our listeners, remember, there is no shame here at Smart Social. Let's talk about keeping your kiddos safe on social media, not avoiding them, not avoiding it, but also not handing it over. Let's be really careful about monitoring what they're doing online, having that rich dialogue so that someday they can be successful online. That means shining online to build a positive footprint. The internet is our new resume. We want, when people Google your kids or look them up on AI, we want the good things to come out, that portfolio of positive accomplishments, so that people are intrigued and they go, wow, this is a resilient young professional that we want to invite into our company, our internship, our organization, and so on. We're excited to help you do that here at Smart Social. We have a dream that every kid shines online, but they're safe along the way. I'm Josh Oakes, the founder of smartsocial.com. And parents, I want to leave you the one last thing. Remember, when you're posting online, to keep it light, bright, and polite, because our kids are modeling what we do online. I'm Josh Oakes. I'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Take care. Thanks for spending time with the smartsocial.com podcast. If today's insights were useful, please share the episode with a fellow parent or educator and subscribe so you never miss our next conversation. And parents, make sure to join one of our next live online events each week to keep your family safe and also enter for a chance to win cool prizes. You can learn more at smartsocial.com. I'm your host, Josh Oakes, and parents, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching what you're doing online. I'll see you on the next episode.